All right, 3:55 it says. So that means I need to finish this by 4:10. Stay underneath the 15-minute limit. That last one went great, no glitches. Very psyched about the no glitch situation. The no glitch situation. This says 25 to 32 minutes. They don't seem to be taking that long, even with the explanation, but you never know. Let's go. Used up 1 minute already. What is the volume of the following rectangular prism? Well, volume is a three-dimensional measurement. And if it's 3 dimensions, then I need to multiply all 3 dimensions to find it. And I'm going to wind up with cubic units. You can see there's a 3 down there if you've zoomed into full screen to see that units cubed is what that means. So what they're doing is they're pointing to the fact that the area of the base is 3 3/8 units squared. So you can tell that's an area because it's 3 3 units. So 2 of my dimensions have been multiplied together to get this area of the base. So I can find the volume by doing the base times the height. I could do the length times the width times the height, but they've already done the length times the width to find the area of the base. So I'm just going to multiply 2 times 3 3/8. Well, of course, multiplying times 2 is just doubling, and that means, of course, that I've got 6 6/8. And of course, 6 6/8, by the way, of course, is 6 3/4, because 6/8 can be reduced to 3/4. Your answer should be a simplified proper fraction like that, or a mixed number like that. So I'm going to do the 6 3/4. On Khan Academy, you need to put a space between the whole number and the fraction, or else they'll think that it's 63/4. It seems fair to put a space there, but just so you know, put that space in there. 6 3/4 to do that. They specifically ask for this, so I don't know that they would mark you wrong if you wrote 6.75, but I believe they would, so I'm not doing the experiment. I'll leave that for the daredevils. 6 3/4. Nothing wrong with that I can see. How many edges does the following shape have? Well, that's an interesting question. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 along the top, then 4 making up the sides, and then 4 making up the bottoms. I see 4 times 3, I get 12. I don't think I'm missing. I feel like that's somehow a trick question, but I don't see any other edges we can have. All right. A rectangular prism with a volume of 6 cubic units is filled with cubes with side length of 1/2 unit. Okay, so let's see, where do I put myself? I put myself right down there so you can see me and see the problem. A rectangular prism just means like that aquarium that we just had a minute ago. It's just a box, right? It's a rectangular, three-dimensional shape. It's a rectangle base and then right angles leading up. That's what the prism part of it is. Let's see, with a volume of 6 cubic units, it's filled with cubes with side lengths of 1/2 unit. How many 1/2 unit cubes does it take to fill the prism? Well, if I've got 6 cubic units, then that means that my 3 dimensions must somehow multiply up to be 6. So it could be 1 times 2 times 3 is a possibility. We can visualize that a little bit. If I've got 3 that way, 2 that way, and 1 that way, let's say that's what we've got. Okay, so that's 3, that's 2, and that's 1. All right, you see? So if I have, it's 2 high, 3 that way, and 1 that way. Well, let's picture it. Let's see. This side there, it's 1, would be broken up. That's a half, and that's a half, right? This side that's 3, well, actually, the side that's 2, let's do that first. That could be 4 halves, right? and this side that's 3, that's going to be 6. Of these half cubic units. So if I'm looking to count these, I should do the top. So I should do the side. Okay. So I've broken it all up into these half cubic units. That's a half by half by half, right? Well, what that means is that I've got 2 of these going back that way and 6 of those going back that way and 4 of those going back up that way. So if I wanted to find out how many of them, then I've just got to realize that 2 of these go into making each linear inch or unit, just units. So 2 times 6 times 4, well, that makes 48, right? 2 times 6 is 12, times 4 is 48, or 4 times 6 is 24, times 2 is 48. So how many of those half cubic inches? So the trick is just knowing that there's 3 things that are being multiplied together. You can draw it out. I think it's easier on these to just go ahead and plug in something that you know works for that, and then figure out from there what your answer is going to be. I'm trying to think if there's an easier way to do that, and I can't especially think of one. Yeah, I'd go that way. And did I type in 48? I hope so. I can't really see it. All right. Okay. Identify the 3D shape below. Anybody remember how much time I've got here? Got 8 more minutes, I think, and a couple more questions. I'm doing all right. Identify the 3D shape below. Really? Identify it? I would call that a triangular prism. It's got a triangular base with sides that are perpendicular to the base. That makes it a prism. And so then, of course, the top is going to be a triangle as well. It's a weird, easy question. I hope you guys understand that. A pyramid, of course, the sides slant towards a point, whereas a prism, the sides go straight up from the base. And I mean, even if it's laying on its side, they're still going straight, away from the base. Triangular prism. All right, next question. Jamie, what does Jamie want to do? I'm gonna go down here. Jamie wants to know the volume of his gold ring in cubic centimeters. This is the old Archimedes story, right? When the guy gets in the bath, displaces a certain amount of water, and Archimedes realizes that that's a way to tell the difference between densities of metals, and you can identify whether something's really gold or fake. Jumps out and says, "Eureka!" and runs down the street, not wearing any clothes, goes into history books. That's the way you get into history books. Jamie wants to know the volume of his gold ring in cubic centimeters. He gets a rectangular glass with a base 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters and fills the glass 4 centimeters high with water. Jamie drops his gold ring in the glass and measures the new height of the water to be 4.25 centimeters. What is the volume of Jamie's ring in cubic centimeters? All right. Not exactly Archimedes, but we'll let it slide. The base, if we look at the picture, the base is 3 by 2. Okay. The water that was displaced by the ring then was 3 by 2 by 0.25, right? 0.25. It started out at 4 before the ring was in it. Then it went up to 0.25. This 3 by 2 stays the same. So I need to multiply my 0.25 times 2 times 3. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. Times 0.25, that's a quarter of 6, right? 1/4 of 6 is 1.5. You can cut in half, cut in half. You're finding a fourth, just like if you're multiplying times 4, you double. If you're dividing by 4, you can cut in half, cut in half. Half of 6 is 3, half of 3 is 1.5. That's one way to do it. You could do the 6 times 0.25, I think I've got time here, right? 6 times 0.25, that's fine too. Right? Just multiply that out. 6 times 0.25 is like 6 times 25. That's 150, but then you've got to remember that you've got 2 numbers to the right of your decimal here. That's 0.25, right? 2 numbers to the right of the decimal means that you've got to have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal in your answer, and you got 1.5. 1.5. 1/4 of 6 is 1.5. So I'm going to type in 1.5 cubic centimeters, right? Centimeters, centimeters, everything's centimeters, cubic centimeters. They wrote in the cubic centimeters. I don't know why I'm questioning it, but always because I feel like I should double check these answers, even when I don't see any way for them to not be correct. Especially when I don't see any way for them not to be correct. That's when you double check, because that's when, I don't know, I might get it wrong. Nothing too exciting there. No change, 5 skills, not tested, 1 skill. All right. End this, and I'll catch you later. Stop.